Thank you very much for being here for my presentation. I'm Pulaporn and today, as you see from the title, I'm going to talk about music and virtual world experience, understand the psychological effect of music in multimedia. And here, we're going to talk about the thing called virtual world experience, or some people might call it fictional world. So the multimedia we're going to talk about is about film, and the other thing is video game, which I will be focusing in because that's a part of the research I done when I was doing my master degree in music psychology at the University of Sheffield. So before we move on to discussion about film and video game music, I would like to discuss a bit about why music has been discussed kind of like a bit like scientifically. Music has been discussed since, you know, like we all study music, we know that music has been discussed in ancient Greek, like by many philosophers. But since 19th century, when science began to develop faster, a lot of scholars discuss about the originality of music from many aspects. As you can see on this slide here, there are very famous Charles Darwin talking about where's music come from. Okay, first of all, it's been interesting to talk about this because scientists start to questioning why is this kind of complex sound matter to us? Why we perceive it as music, not just sound? Why does it induce mood, emotion, story? It exists in every culture. No matter where you go in the world, you turn on the music. People recognize it as music. Some meaning might be different according to your cultural background, but we know it's music. That's why scientists start to talk about this. You can see example from Charles Darwin talking about music is an outcome of sexual selection. He discussed that is originally used for mating in animal and as well as in human. Some other opinion from Spencer discussed that it's an outgrowth of an evolution of our language expression. For example, if I get angry, I'm start to talk louder as well as using higher pitch. And music represents that as well. When we perceive emotion from music, we hear the combination of loud noise with higher pitch and some very hard articulation. We perceive it as like a bit more aggressive. So that is another opinion. And one interesting thing is the last one by Pinker, showing that some scientists, he actually a psychologist, he looked at music as an auditory cheesecake. That's what he called music. It does not serve any function in human evolution at all. If music does not exist, we still be human, so it does not matter in Pinker's opinion. That is very interesting. So music has been discussed a lot in the scientific way. In the field of music psychology, we discuss about the relationship between music and language, music and physiological responses, as well as, I think it's the most important thing because I'm also musically trained. So we discuss a lot about music and emotion. And music does not only affect your emotion, it also affect how you perceive the world. So sound actually has an impact on the way you perceive your surrounding. It helps you to interpret whether here is safe or not, is it dangerous. Sound or what we call auditory information does matter for our surviving. Music also has that quality because it's some sort of sound, but it's a bit more complex. Psychological study found that music has impact on inducing mood. For example, the second one, as you can see by Joe Lish and colleague, I found that if you're listening to happy music, you pretty much interpret the thing you see more positive. But if you're listening to some negative music with like minor chord, a lot of minor mode, a lot of aggressive rhythmic pattern, you might perceive what you see more negative. And the last one, a study by Japanese researcher, they found that if you're listening to music, the way you perceive the surrounding environment is different. For example, if you look outside the window, you will see this scenario. Imagine if you're listening to some sort of a very romantic music, a very romantic and calm, you might think, oh my God, this is a very wonderful day. But on the other hand, if you're listening to something very sad, like a heartbroken music, you might think today is a sad day, for example. So unsurprisingly, that's why music has been used a lot in multimedia to fulfill the oral space. So pretty much, music has been used a lot in film and video game, or what we call a fictional world, fictional experience. It does not exist in our space and time it's created. So before we discuss about that, I would like to talk a bit about the sound in multimedia. In film and what I call Ludo music or video game music, there are two types of sound. The first one is called diegetic sound. Diegetic is a sound that has source from the virtual environment. For example, if you watch a film and you hear two characters talking to each other, their conversation is diegetic sound. The source comes within the environment. Or the sound effect making from a gunshot. You watch an action movie, they have a gunshot, they shot the gun, that's its diegetic sound. For music, if the sound comes from, for example, a radio, a music box, that's also called diegetic sound. What I'm interested in is what we call non-diegetic sound, or in short, for music, I would say some sort of background music. As you see, non-diegetic sound is narrator commentary, does not exist in the environment, the fictional environment. The sound effect used to induce your emotion. For example, you watching a horror movie, and then they have the build up to that jump scare. You've been anticipating to see that. They have some ambient sound that's moving toward the jump scare that does not exist in the environment at all. If you cut off the sound, it's just silence. That kind of sound is called non-diegetic. So that is what I'm interested in, because non-diegetic sound for music, background music, is there to induce your mood, to convey some emotional information to you, for you to interpret the fictional world, the scenario. So, in film and in video game, in film, background music or this sort of non-diegetic sound is used to influence how the audience will interpret the visual content or the picture, the moving picture of the film. And for video game, it's very, very similar to the concept in film music. In video game, music has a role to convey general mood, thought, and feeling of characters and narrative structure, as well as it's aiming to immerse. I want to underline this word because it's very important for video game music designer and in video game context, because immersion experience is very important to immerse or engage you deeply into the fictional world. So music is also there to immerse player emotion and sensories into the fictional environment. So it's very, very similar. And I believe I was a music performer before, and I'm a fan of musical soundtrack I'm a fan of Hans Zimmer. I like musical soundtrack, as well as I really like Final Fantasy, both have like very cool soundtrack. So in my idea back in the time, I was thinking it should be the same, music just there to induce your mood into the fictional environment. However, it's not likely when we look at the actual psychological effect of sound, of music, background music, in film and video game. So, in film, it does its job. So, in many psychological studies, they found that audience perceive the film more emotionally when they watch the film with music more than without music. And they're more engaged into the film because they have more information to interpret. And sometimes music can convey your mood the way that they don't have to use any language. So you go into the next level of engagement to the character. However, in game, we expect to do the same thing. A lot of ludomusicologists discuss that music does some of that thing to player as well. But psychological study seems to be controversial. It does have good effect. For example, playing video game with music makes people feel more competent. They can score more, that's what they feel, as well as they play significantly longer, which means they immerse into the fictional world and they don't want to leave. However, there's also some negative effect of music when we play video game. So here, study by Nick and his colleague, they found that people who play video game without music seems to report better experience compared to people who play with music. So as a musician, I feel like I still prefer music, but we have to be open-minded to everyone who is not musician as well. So that is quite interesting for me when I was reading this paper. The other paper that reports some kind of controversial report is a study by Limscomb and Zedner. They found that participants report mixed feeling when they play different scenes of video game with music and without music. Why is that? Music is there to induce your mood. It's there to fulfill the aerospace for you to interpret the visual element as well. But why music influence, impact, affect you differently from film? Why is the almost similar experience of being in front of the screen and just doing the activity? Here's a discussion, the first one by Karen Collins. She is a wonderful ludomusicologist as well as ludomusic psychologist and a computer engineer. She just suggested that video game is not an audio-visual experience same as in film. Because when you play video game, one important factor is the interaction. You need to interact with the virtual reality, with the fictional world. What does that mean? Interaction involves cognitive process. So it means your brain has to work. You have to collect information from what you get, make plan, making decision, and then react to it. For psychologists, that means you need the thing called cognitive load. And the cognitive does have, your cognitive function has limitation. So while you're doing your task and you perceive some audio information that is not necessary for you, you are receiving some kind of, like a junk that's not necessary for your cognitive process at all. So that might be the case for music in fictional reality. And that we're gonna discuss a bit that for video game, different level design does involve different type of cognitive process. Here I color the cognition pattern. So it means, for example, if you play something very easy, your task is very easy. It does not involve a lot of cognitive load. However, when you play something hard, you need to make your decision fast. So you have to get the information as well as making decisions that involve a lot of cognitive load. So in that case, music might disturb you. As you can see on the third one, music may disturb you from hearing the sound information they need while they play. And that's where my study began. I'm questioning how musical soundtrack influence player experience between different game level design. With the thing I discussed above, I come with two hypotheses. The first one, music should influence annoyance and negative experience when you play with a lot of cognitive load, when you play in the level that require a lot of cognitive load or the difficult level. And music, in the second hypothesis, should influence better video game experience in the easy level. So you have more information to interpret what you are playing to immerse into the reality. So this is what my study looked like. It's a quantitative research. So I would like to apologize in advance. It's going to be a lot of number. So here, as you can see, there are 3 levels of video game from easy, medium to hard. 2 different conditions of participant. One play video game with music, the other one play video game without music. Each group has 14 participants. It's being counterbalanced between male and female, as well as a preference. So the thing I use to measure that experience is the validated scales used a lot in Ludo music study and Ludo psychology study. So the first one is called the Game Experience Questionnaire, or the GEQ, consisted with these components. The other one is the Discrete Emotion Questionnaire, used to capture how they perceive the emotion from each scenario of the game. Here's the result. You can skip the number, that is not matter. So when I get the result, I would like to explain how I analyze it. So first, I ignore the factor of different level or cognitive load, I say. And I just compare between people who play video game with music and without music. What I found, there's no difference in reporting. If you use statistical analysis, you will know what is matter. I just as like an information. What matter is this thing called the p-value. If the p-value is lower than 0.05, it means that something interesting happened. But here, it's more than 0.05, so there is no significant finding. It means people who play video game with music and without music, they perceive video game the same. When I don't put the factor of level design into the consideration. So I move on to the different kind of analysis. I analyze each level separately. I do the analysis on easy level first, compare between music and non-music condition, and I do so on to the hard level. I found nothing until I get to the hard level, and I only found it in the DEQ score, or when I analyze the emotion, how they perceive the emotion from the game. What I found is that the components of anger and sadness seem to have significantly different. And in the infographic below, you can see that somehow people who play video game with music perceive the hard level less angry and less sad. So that means maybe the musical soundtrack inside that level has the quality to induce player mood, which does not exist in any other level. So yes, we find something significant. So move on to the last analysis. This thing, how I did it was I compared 3 levels. And this one is not important. I just want to let everyone know that this one we're gonna start first. We compare 3 levels without consider the factor of playing with music or without music. That's not a method because it's not what we try to look at. What we try to look at is comparing between music and non-music. So what I did, so the program done it for me, but I'm gonna explain to you how it works. So the program first analyze each level within the music group and each level within the non-music group. And from what they get from each group, they compare between them again to see, is there any difference in that? So with the emotional perceived from the game, it seems like we find something, but it seems like we find something when I first analyze it. But when I follow up the test, it showed that it's not statistically significant because we have time limitation. If you have any question about the way I analyze it or want to understand any of these numbers, please let me know maybe at the end when we do Q&A or during the break. I'm more than delighted to answer any kind of question. So move on to what I'm very interested in. My finding from the DEQ score or the video for the game experience questionnaire. When I first analyzed it, it showed this statistically significant here. So it means there's some significant finding. And then I follow up where is the difference between music and non-music. So I used univariate test, that's the name of the test, and then these are the components that show some significant difference between music group and non-music group. And I'm gonna show you now how different and what happened during the game, during the time my participants play the game. So this is how it looks like. Skip all the number, just forget on the infographic. What the test found is a difference between what I call pattern of alteration. As you can see, this is the music group. The green is the easy level, the blue is the medium level, and the orange is the hard level. So as you can see, when participants played with music, their pattern of alteration is changing differently compared to in non-music group. So non-music group, they feel competence when they play easy level, and then it increasing highly until when they play hard level. You can see the change here. Like you can see from this infographic how it's changed and how it's different. Sorry, it's just very hard to explain this thing. So, and what I put here is in the case that when you analyze it without considering the factor of whether you play it with music or non-music. So here's totally different compared to when you separate people who play with music and without music. So let the picture speak for itself. And that's how the competence component looks like. And now move to sensory and imaginary immersion. As you can see, music group, when they play video game with music, they feel highly immersed with the video game, and it's decreased according to how hard the level become. In contrary, for non-music group, it seems to increase from easy level to hard. And when you look at the left, in the left graph, it does not really show what really happened for when you play video game with music or without music. So the same for negative effect. As you can see, people who play video game with music, they feel very negative when they play video game in the hard level. However, in the non-music group, playing video game without music make the negative experience increase, as well as the positive effect. Okay, so for the hypothesis I proposed at the beginning, hypothesis 1. Music will influence annoyance and negative experience in the heart level. If you look back into the result I found, it's actually rejecting my hypothesis. So no significant difference found between any item related to annoyance or negative experience or other games experience when they play heart level. However, for the hypothesis 2, it's proved to be right. Significant effect found in the tension and annoyance score when they play music influence better video game experience when playing the easy level. Yes, we can look at this. You can see that music in the music group, they rate positive effect higher when they play video game with music. Video game the easy level with music, and then it decreased to the hard level. So, however, what I want to underline is when you compare music without thinking about the cognitive process or cognitive pattern in interactive multimedia, it means nothing. So, here in my conclusion, when we discuss about experience from multimedia, for film, yes, it's audio-visual experience, but from video game or this type of interactive media, we should consider it as audio-visual and interaction. So here are my references I use in this presentation, and here's the Q&A. Thank you. Sorry for taking a lot of time explaining this.
No, thank you very much for your talk. We're going to move on.